Hey everybody, welcome back to this episode of Think Business Live. I'm looking forward to talking to Frank Molinar. Frank, it's such a great time to talk to you as we sit here. It's January 31st, 2022, and we're live. And I can't think of a better topic to talk about than financial readiness. The market seems it's been so, just hot lately. And now we have the Fed talking about interest rate hikes and inflation and how things are going to move through the year. I think anybody who's been not maybe as engaged with their financial readiness is starting to see with volatility potential in the market. And so this is great timing. Let me give a quick bio on you. Frank Molinar is your name. You're a leading authority in financial readiness, training to those with a military mindset. And through your work with the Department of Defense, Arizona's Attorney General, the Arizona Department of Veteran Services, and multiple VSOs, you have personally logged over 4,000 hours counseling service members and vets from all ranks, ages, and issues. You're also a public speaker and on financial readiness. You also have a book out called Financial Dominance, Military and Veteran Edition, Your Battle Plan for a Richer Life. So let's start there. How do we create a plan for a richer life? Define richer life.
You answered the question right there, John. And by the way, thank you very much for letting me join you on your podcast.
Yeah. Thank you.
To be here. How you define that? I had this this happened one time. I'm talking to different service members about financial readiness while I'm actually working in the military. And this one guy just asked me off the cuff, "Can you make me rich?" And it was one of those moments where I wasn't sure what he was really asking, if he was just baiting me for a stock tip, what's the next hot product or the hot stock or anything like that. And so I'm still struggling to answer his question, understand his question.
Right.
The answer just comes right out. I don't know what rich means to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guarantee I can get you there.
Yeah.
So where you start is you define what rich means to you.
Right.
Because this is a journey that is everyone's individual personal journey. And they have to own it. I tell service members, this is your mission. Unlike all the other orders you've been given, this mission must be personal.
Yeah.
So we start with defining what it is you're looking for.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that for a second, Rich, because and how much you guide them when it comes to this. Because I think, and I see this as a business coach, and I work with solopreneurs to Fortune 100 companies and everything in between. But one of the things I see is that sometimes people struggle with what their self-worth really is, and so, versus what their highest potential is. Or, so I may meet someone, for example, that's making, just for an example, $150,000 to $400,000 a year. Where when I look at them, I think to myself, you should be making $1 million plus without even having to work harder. And so I think sometimes people get stuck in their own quicksand of what they think their self-worth is. So how much do you kind of guide them, or do you kind of meet them where they are?
So in the hours that I've logged counseling service members, a lot of them were been referred by commanders. And so they're in severe financial trauma. They're going through some big chaos. And when I come along and ask them the question, if you didn't have financial troubles, what would be your ideal life? What's your dream? What's the thing that ignites you? A lot of times they don't catch on. They just can't figure out why I'm asking that, because they want to hold on to their security clearance and hopefully keep their job, and all the survival, things are in the front of their mind. It usually takes about 30, 40 minutes into our conversation when I help them to understand that all the challenges you're currently having, we will address. They're inevitable. They'll clean them up, but you've got to have the motivation. So I keep driving and I keep pushing for that answer. What is it that you really want out of life? What is that dream that you've buried or you've just kind of smothered with the circumstances of everyday grind?
Yeah.
So that you can start thinking big again. Because every person that I've met so far, and this is through a career that expands more than 3 decades, their financial potential is bigger than they're actually doing, and bigger than their dreams in many cases.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's those stuck points. So let's rewind a little bit. So let's rewind your what sounds like your typical client who's coming to you in chaos, right? So somebody who's listening to this, or somebody who knows somebody that would benefit from this, rewind to the um, before the chaos to maybe avoid the chaos, and or kind of the beginning signs to get to you earlier in the chaos than later.
That's the whole battle plan metaphor that the book Financial Dominance is built on.
Good segue. Good segue, Frank. I liked it. All right. Yeah. Let's talk. I like it. I like it. I like it. Okay. So, all right, good. So let's talk about that. So if it's in the book, right? Financial Dominance, your battle plan for a richer life. Talk about how you reverse engineer and walk people through this.
So unlike a lot of things that passes for financial literacy out there, you hear a lot of great ideas. You hear a lot of information. You hear a lot of things that, just doing the math, you can't argue with. But you don't hear a lot of it prioritized and organized in a way of what I do first, and then how do I progress the next step, and then tackle these things in a way where you can laser your efforts and laser your focus.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do here. So the first step in anybody's finances is to stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
Stop the financial bleeding. And we go through this whole conversation of how does a medic treat somebody who gets injured in a hostile territory? The steps that a medic does are the same steps that we can do to stop our own financial bleeding.
And some of those are
very simple. There are three. They stop and do a clinical exam. You got to take a look at what money's coming in and what money's going out. Not everybody likes to do this, but half the questions we struggle with about our money get answered in that simple exercise.
Mm-hmm.
So we do an exam, we apply pressure, and the pressure you apply to your finances, can I get more money in the door? Can I get more efficient with the money that's going out the door?
Yeah.
More efficient spending and more productive as far as income in. And the third reason is what we've already talked about. Why are we doing this? What is it that we're going for? Setting that goal, setting that vision is really critical.
Yeah.
In getting somebody to understand how to.
Yeah. Let's talk about kind of the small areas that people can kind of look at their where they can maybe start stopping, as you say, the bleeding. I think so many people have so many monthly subscriptions to things. This one's $4.99. This one's $9.95. This one's $14.95. I remember, so I'm going to be 50 this year. And when my wife and I, she was my girlfriend at the time, we were living in a place called downtown Birmingham. And we were in our late 20s. And, we'd wake up and we'd go to Starbucks and we'd get a latte. And then at the end of the day, we'd go to Starbucks and we'd get a latte. And then I calculated, I don't remember, it was like I think, 8 to 12 months later. And I said, Joanna, I think we're spending about, I don't even remember what it was, $3,000-$4,000 a year on lattes.
Yeah.
And you don't realize it because you're spending in just small increments on a daily or weekly basis. And so, but I think a lot of people, when they start adding up all of the things that they have, all of a sudden it's easy to get to $1,000 a month with minor subscriptions. Can you kind of talk about how to look at those in what I think many people think are invisible and not a big deal?
So in that whole exercise of just taking a look at what's coming in and what's going out, it is eye-opening. I've had people think, say for the income I'm earning, I should be doing really well. I can't figure anything out. And I just put them through the exercise. Let's just look at your bank statements and categorize every debit charge.
Yeah.
And the same thing, when you've got $1,500, $1,600 a month going out on eating out,
right?
Whether it's Starbucks or the value menu at Wendy's or wherever else it is.
It adds up.
It adds up. But it's that revelation when the person is actually seeing the accountability of their own numbers in front of them. It's that revelation thinking, oh, well, what could I do a little differently?
Right.
And then it's just simply a matter of why don't we cook 3 meals a week?
Right.
Just 3-4 meals, and we can cut that and save $400 or $500 off that $1,600.
Right. Minor changes. For the last, I think it's been about 2 weeks, I put myself on a Amazon stop. I'm not buying anything on Amazon. I mean, daily I'm getting stuff from Amazon. And so I kind of set some boundaries around it. So I told myself, unless I absolutely need it and I'm going to use it within the next 24 hours to 1 week, I'm not buying it. Meaning even if there's a book that I like, if I don't have the time to start reading it within the week, I'm not getting it. And I haven't ordered anything on Amazon for 2 weeks because normally it's just so easy. I think about it, I click it, I buy it, but my Amazon bills are expensive. And so I'm kind of putting myself on a freeze for a few months.
Great discipline.
Yeah.
I mean, consider that hundreds of millions of dollars are invested every day in figuring out how to separate us from our money, how to make it easier and more convenient.
Yeah.
We really do have to stem that tide by creating some discipline and boundaries of our own.
Yeah. It's hard though. It's hard. So what are some of the other things that you talk about as far as how to gain control and really kind of and get the financial dominance that you need?
So when I walk someone through a training session or counseling session, or when you walk through this book, you see that it kind of builds progressively. What are your biggest pain points around your finances? For a lot of times, a lot of service members, it's going to be their debts that they're carrying because they went on a deployment, got a lot of extra pay, came back, bought a truck they couldn't afford, and 3 months later, they're worried about the repo man, coming to pick it up. So I have to do a lot of managing that chaos. But when you get them into the point of committing to the task of following the rules of money, and the first rule of money you have to understand is you must not ever live within your means.
Mm-hmm.
You must not live within your means. I mean, nobody argues that we cannot afford to live beyond our means, and we have to be. We have to point out sometimes the accountability. Friend to friend, we have to let somebody know. You think you're refi here, you're refi there, you're changing this thing, balance transfer. You think you're actually doing something, but you're just sweeping it under the rug. You're still bleeding. You're still living beyond your means.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I have to drive home is that you can't afford to live within your means. We have to live in a place where we're generating a profit in our lives.
Yeah.
Where we're living below our means, where we have a surplus, because that surplus are where the seeds of wealth get created.
Correct.
That surplus is where you begin to be able to do all kinds of things. So the work up front is to get them to stop the bleeding and then to understand how to live really well below their means.
I love that. You know what I think, and I hear what you're saying, the number one rule of money, but I'm going to back up and say the number, 0.5, right, of money. And I see this, and what I'm hearing you say is, and it's kind of a question, and I'm making an assumption based on what you said, is, they go, they deploy, they come back, they have extra money, they buy a truck. And, I see this in law schools, in medical schools. Right. I don't know what it's like in the service. But, first, let me just say thank you to everybody who's serving the country. I am grateful and appreciative. But it doesn't seem like anybody is proactively teaching many people even about money. I mean, unless you major in finance or you study it, there's no that I know of any school, any class or classes in medical school, in law school, and I could go on and on. They teach you how to run a business and teach you about money, right? It's always kind of, usually you hear the stories after the fact or after somebody got in trouble. So I feel like there needs to be a new, it needs to be reconstructed, right? Where in the beginning, it's you teach people about the fundamentals of money, of compounding interest, of saving, of living below your means. That doesn't mean you have to live in poverty, but living below your means. That just because you have $3,000 extra dollars doesn't mean you need to buy X, or right. And the mindset behind money. Can you just kind of talk about that?
I wish I had the right answer, because we teach things in school that are useful for kids and helpful in their critical analytical skills, but they really don't teach them how to step out in life and take that first job. I
remember taking, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I remember taking, I double majored in journalism and economics, and I remember taking Calc 2 for the second or third time. It took me a lot, right? But I remember thinking, what is this? As I knew I was going to be some type of business person, what is this possibly going to do for me in life? Right. Yeah. So I'm not saying it's not useful for many people in many fields, but sorry. So I don't mean to interrupt you, but it's right.
I completely agree. So my daughter is a high school teacher, and I go into her classroom every year, sometimes twice a year.
I love teachers. Yeah.
Yeah. And I talk to their kids, and I tell them right up front, You had some great things. You had some interesting classes. You had some you're on board. The next 60 minutes are going to be the most impactful for the rest of your life. And I try to draw their attention because there is nothing more impactful. I won't say money is the most important thing, but learning how to manage it is among the most important.
It's so important, right?
It touches every area of our lives, and the things that matter the most to you, if you don't understand how to protect them by managing your money correctly,
right,
it's going to bring a lot of pain.
My wife's grandfather always used to say, "Rich or poor, it's good to have money." Right, but it's true. It's not about having it, right? Because you can easily make it. You see it with the 90+% of people who win the lottery and then end up going bankrupt because it's the self-worth. They don't know how to manage the money. I think with every winner of the lottery, it should mandatory come with a financial wealth advisor, right? It doesn't. There's a big disconnect, right? So that's why I was looking forward to talking with you, and I love what you're doing because it's kind of like I teach people how to grow and make money. You teach people how to manage money.
Exactly.
Right? So there's and you need both sides, and many times you need to proactively go hire it yourself. And I think a lot of times people don't think about that, right? So you speak and you work with people. So talk about that element. How can people connect with you, work with you, get you to speak on stage to help train, whether it's the youth or people who just need your advice as they get older?
The short answer is frankmolinar.com.
Okay.
You can reach out to me there. You can request any kind of conference. We do full day workshops. We do hour workshops. We do intensives. Any of those kind of things are possibility. When we look at employers and small employers, even when they're spending a lot of time on important issues like mental health or trying to provide enough benefits to the employees, and now the conversation about pay raises going up and inflation going up. In all of those conversations, I don't hear it, but I think we need to hear it. The employers reaching out to their employees and saying, we need to provide some financial tools for them to understand how to make the most of these opportunities.
Correct.
More money never answers the problem,
right?
Unless they know how to manage that tool. And we just don't do that. And that's what I think needs to happen. It needs to happen from the top down. The CEO, the executive, who may be getting 200 times the earnings of every average employee he's working for him, under him, still needs to understand that money is important. And here's the thing. This is not a cost for an employer. This is not a cost, because the cost of stress on the workforce depletes profits and saps businesses from productivity. That all comes back. So it really is not a cost. It's an investment in the benefit 100%. Of the company and of the employees.
I love it. An article yesterday, again, we're recording this January 31st, 2022, an article yesterday in the Washington Post that can be found at washingtonpost.com. An article, the title under the economy section, rents are up more than 30% in some cities, forcing millions to find another place to live. So there are things that are happening that are out of our control where we need to be more educated about. So before we spend money on X, we know that Y, they say, save for a rainy day. But I just don't think people are thinking like that because we haven't been trained and educated at an early age to think like that. And then there's an article in 2008 in the Atlantic that I think the title of it was, is Google making us stupid? Talking about how technology is changing the way we deal with delayed versus instant gratification. And we all want instant gratification, not delayed. Right. And so to me, managing money is all about delayed gratification, like you're talking about.
Right. So can I say one thing here? One parallel that was really, really dynamic to connect with the military was to have the conversation of what's life like in a hostile territory.
Yeah.
When things are hostile all around you, when half the people in this country want to kill you and the other half might like you, but they all look the same, what is the most important thing you could have?
Yeah.
And the answer is always the same. It's security. Yeah. In a hostile territory, security matters. It's not a rainy day we need to be worried about. It's a full-on ambush. It's an onslaught. It's
Yeah.
what life throws at us sometimes, and we can't neglect to understand that that happens.
Yeah.
So it's not a good idea to save money any more than it's a good idea to breathe.
Yeah. No, I love it.
As long as you can go without breathing, that's about as long as you should go without saving.
Yeah. I love it. I love to do a series with you. I do a Coffee with John series. I'd love to do a series with you on money and thinking about money differently. I'll talk to you about that when we go offline. Frank, tell everybody where they can buy your book.
You can buy the book at Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, at Target. Any of the major retailers have access to it. If they don't have it, you could ask them to order it. But you also have our website dedicated to the site, financialdominancebook.com, financialdominancebook.com, and links to the retailers. It also gives you an opportunity to join our newsletter, which haven't really launched specifically, but it's the idea of sending out great tips and great ideas from different consults with service members and executives that we meet with.
Good. We will link all of it on the website at johndwoskin.com. I appreciate, Frank, you being on the show today. Any of you who know anybody that could utilize this talk, please send them this podcast. Frank, thank you. That was great. Think Community, thanks so much. Frank, I appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Pleasure being here.